Welcome back to Power Play. We're still reeling from the tragic loss of 18 Canadians in this incomprehensible act of violence. We don't know the motive, but how is the province of Nova Scotia coping? Let's bring in the Premier Stephen McNeil to get a sense of that. Premier, first of all, the entire country's with your province and a family of a province and a family of a country today. Can you give us a sense, first of all, of how the scope of this tragedy is settling in?
Well, throughout the day, we were just really fully understanding the scope of it. Yesterday, when it began, it was just unfathomable, to be honest with you. It was unthinkable, something that would ever happen like that in this country or in this province, in a rural part of Nova Scotia and Colchester County. Today, I think people are coming to terms and understanding the depth of the loss. So many people, children asking questions, grandparents asking why their children have been taken, and communities asking, how could this ever happen here? And for us as a province, our job and goal is to wrap our arms around these families. And we're determined, quite frankly, to never let this define us. It'll be our responsibility as a province to ensure that we never lose sight of the fact or the values of our ancestors and of being kind, caring, community-minded people and loving. And no matter how much horror has been put upon us in the last number of days, we will stand the test and find our way through this.
Our thoughts are obviously with the families and the victims, but I know this investigation is ongoing, but it's such incomprehensible. Do you know anything yet about the motive of the killer? Do you know anything yet about how he obtained RCMP vehicles or uniforms?
No, I don't know anything about that. And to be perfectly frank, I don't know how I could ever put myself in the mind of an individual that would go to that extent. It's not in the thinking of where my mind would ever go, where I think it's not where most Canadians would go, if not all of us. My mind really has been, as the more and more comes out around the depth of the loss, and how do we support the community and families.
And the crime scene there's something like 16 sites. It's a huge crime scene. Have you heard from the families of the victims? I know there's a virtual vigil on Friday night. What are they telling you?
So I haven't heard directly from them. Obviously, law enforcement is going through the investigation. My deputy premier and Minister of Finance represents that riding. She grew up not far from where that is. Her husband grew up in those neighborhoods. So she knows that community well. It's not unlike many rural communities in Nova Scotia, and indeed, I would argue in Canada. You have a strawberry supper on a Saturday night in the middle of the summer, and everyone shows up, and you know them all. And the depth of this tragedy is, you have students who are wondering why their teacher's not coming back, or who've been involved with law enforcement, why they're not coming back, healthcare providers, grandparents, innocent people out in the community who became victims to this horror.
Right. Premier, would you support the Liberals fast-tracking some kind of gun control measure already before we know the facts?
Listen, my job really is to heal this province, and that's what I'm about to do and focus on. The national government will bring towards whatever they deem right in terms of national policy. At the appropriate time, I'll have an impact. But my job really is to tell these families and tell Nova Scotians, no matter what has happened to us, and as hard as this tragedy may be, we will find our way through this, and we'll find our way through this together. And we're going to do that by not losing sight and, quite frankly, not allowing the anger of an individual and the horror of an individual define this province. We will stand connected, right, and that's what we're focused on.
Premier McNeil, our thoughts are with you your province and the victims' families. It's just something that we'll be thinking about for many